All right, boys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Back at you.
You guys are a lot closer to New Year's down there than we are. You already refocused your holidays.
We're on the 27th, yeah. So we're on the way. Christmas is in the rearview mirror.
And how was everything? How you've been juggling a lot, obviously. How are things going down there?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been busy. The tournament was nuts. Christmas Eve was running around shopping malls, making sure I ticked all the boxes that I had to tick. But Christmas morning went successful. So all three of our kids thought they were the favorite kid. So they all thought they won Christmas. So that's all you can do as a parent, right?
That's perfect. It's like Bandon Dunes. Everybody argues about which golf course is the best. That's the perfect scenario. That means Mike Kaiser wins. You know what I mean?
He does. Absolutely. Yeah. And everybody thinks Bandon's the best course there, and I don't understand it. But anyway.
It's
well, we have some Trails fanboys on this call here. Matt and I both love Trails so much.
I think Trails starts off like the best course in the world and then sort of lets you down a little bit somewhere in the middle. But it is pretty amazing, Trails.
Are you an old Mac guy? Is that your number one?
I appreciate old Mac, but I understand why it wouldn't be everyone's favorite one.
You're a Pac Dunes.
I'm probably Pacific Dunes, yeah, if I was really pushed into a corner. But that's tough. That's a tough course for the average player, right? So
yeah.
I know. That's what's so good about it. You're right. That's why that place wins.
Yeah. And it's so strange that not a lot of other places follow suit in terms of the variety and the variations of land. You know, I think Forest Dunes has a nice start, and Sand Valley obviously is catching, but as catching Bandon Dunes quickly, obviously when they'll come online with two new ones, one being Toledo and one being Sage Valley. But it's just odd to me that not a lot of other, Kohler having 4 Pete Dyes, some places committing to, Nicholas Player Palmer. It's like, really? I don't know. It doesn't really feel like it's the formula to where we're going with all this.
Geoff, I'm wondering, coming out of the Sandbelt Invitational, were people having that discussion about their favorites among the 4?
A little bit. I mean, they're almost beyond. Royal Melbourne, Kingston, Heath are almost beyond debate. That's just a really interesting conversation. It's not really a debate. I mean, it's like 1 and Mark 1, like 1 and 1A. It was more just about how good they were rather than they're so good that you don't really argue that one's better than the other. They're just so good, Yeah. Especially the way we played them. That was brilliant. There was certainly some Peninsula South we played on the last round. There was certainly multiple players walking around saying that was the best conditioned course I'd ever played on. I mean, it was miraculous conditioning. Peter Fowler, who's mid-60s, who's been playing tour golf since the early 80s, he said they were the best greens he's ever putted on anywhere. So that was a bit of a treat for everyone on Sunday or on our last round.
Yeah. That's neat. I mean, so Matt and I, we didn't get to play Peninsula or Yara Yara, but we played Kingston and we played Royal. And to me, the big difference is Royal Melbourne just has more interesting terrain. I mean, you're just going up and down and around, and Kingston Heath is somewhat of a flat golf course, and that might be the difference when you get down to it. For me, it was just I felt like every hole at Royal Melbourne stood alone as this unique kind of treat and test. And but how would you describe the difference to the people who haven't had a chance to see them?
Yeah, I mean, you're actually probably right. Really, the difference is the land. I mean, Royal Melbourne just got gifted the most unbelievable land for golf ever. It's undulating. It rolls over sort of big old sand dunes, and it's just big scale. There's like Augusta feels big scale. When you look down the fairways, they're so wide and everything's just so big. Royal Melbourne feels like that to me, and every hole is so uniquely different from all the others. Yet they're all related. It's an amazing place. Kingston Heath is sort of, I think it's a bit like Riviera in that it's sort of shows you what you can do on flat land. you know, because it really isn't a great piece of land. Like Riviera isn't really a great piece of land, but they've managed to create a good course because the holes are good. You know, Kingston Heath is a bit like that, and it's an amazing place. Yeah, they're very different, but again, clearly cousins. You know, the Heath and Royal Melbourne. Royal Melbourne is just an amazing piece of land.
I was definitely not prepared for the scale of Royal Melbourne, just like I wasn't prepared for the scale of Augusta National. When you just see it on TV, it's all seems so flat and just two-dimensional. It doesn't seem, you know, and then when you get there, you're like, oh my God, the undulation, the change, the swing, the scale, the size of everything. So Melbourne, I had the same feeling like, wow, I had no idea we were in for this. And then wasn't prepared for the charm of Kingston Heath. It's like, you know, the I don't know, the small, you know, it's not small, but it's just the opposite of Royal Melbourne.
Cozy.
It's almost like you can't really, there are a lot of times when I get in these debates about golf courses, or we try to pick one or the other, there is no actual way to truly compare an apple and an orange. I mean, they, you know, yeah, they're both fruits, but it just, they serve two very different purposes to me. And that's in the end, what it comes down to with certain places, like Royal Melbourne and Kingston Heath. They're just different.
Yeah, they're different. That's what's so great about them. You know, like you just want to, you get a different experience, yet the same style of golf just around the corner. Yeah, it's, you're right. It's an intimate feeling, Kingston Heath. As soon as you drive in the gate, it's just like, oh, I like being here. You know, it
is really.
I just like being here. This is a nice place. You know,
yeah.
They've got you at hello. You know, Kingston Heath.
It's the one I'd probably want to be a member at, and then have a friend that's a member at Melbourne to pop over there and play that on occasion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And even that first tee at Kingston Heath was one of my favorites. It just feel like you're teeing off right from the pro shop counter, and there's just that incredible expanse of that first fairway. You know, we went out there without caddies or yardage guys, and we were really flying blind. It's like, is this the biggest fairway in the world? It just looks like it's just grass forever. Not even totally sure where we're aiming. Just straight ahead, and you're walking up that hill. You're like, this is incredible. And then it narrows. Everything gets a lot cozier, but. That must have been really neat to start at Kingston Heath on that tee box with that sense of intimacy. Did you, Geoff, have a say in the rota as far as which courses when, or is that kind of more about the schedules of the venues? And I guess how did you decide to start at Kingston?
Yeah, this year it was like sort of set by the courses, the clubs. Sort of Christmas week is a week. Or leading up to, it's kind of quiet on the golf courses because people are traveling and doing their Christmas thing and stuff. So they quite often set up to do a bit of maintenance, a lot of these clubs around this week. And there was a little bit of that going on with stuff that they'd had planned. So the order of play just sort of naturally fell by how it fit with the clubs this year. Peninsula was very adamant they wanted the last round. They were big on that. So Kingston Heath was the perfect start though, because as you said, that first tee, the normal first tee is about sort of 20 meters from the clubhouse, 20 yards from the clubhouse, and then you go away. But they have this sort of special day tee, Australian Open tee, that's a bit like the first at Merion. I mean, it is, your backswing is bumping into the awning on the clubhouse, like you are right in the grill. And it was a fantastic way to start because the atmosphere was great because they were sort of having breakfast and coffees in the clubhouse, and the putting green's right there, and everybody was sort of gathered around this first tee as we all sort of, it's got that great feeling, you know, when there's the crowd in the first tee to golf at a round of golf or even a tournament where you hit and the three guys who hit just wander off over the hill and disappear on their journey, and then you wait for the next group to hit, you know what I mean? It just had this great beginning feel about it. So it was the perfect place to start Kingston Heath. It was great.
Why no Victoria? I was just curious, just knowing you, obviously your relationship, Victoria. What, and will it be part of the rota in the future?
Yeah, Vic couldn't fit it. As I said, there was a maintenance thing. They've got the Australian Open at Victoria.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Sort of.
Okay, sorry.
Thanksgiving week next year.
Okay.
So they do this new thing with Bermuda grass, or some of the couch grasses down here. The Bermuda grass, they scalp it almost to the dirt. It takes a lot of the thatch out of it, and then it grows back sort of better, you know. I think they were doing something like that, and it had all been planned and they couldn't change. So they wanted in, but it didn't fit this year. So they'll certainly be in the mix in the future because, home course, and it's a pretty special place, Vic, too. So, and again, that's one of the sort of happy side effects, I think, to this tournament is we're trying to fit 5 or 6 into 4 slots, so there's going to be a bit of competition and a bit of rotation, I think, because, I mean, the whole point is to highlight how good the Sandbelt is. So if you always stuck to the same 4, that might be a little bit boring, but you're trying to get 6 or 7 into 4, which is tough. But so the 4 we picked, it worked out perfect this year.
Is Metropolitan in the mix?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Metropolitan's just as amazing. I mean, there is sort of a feeling usually of sort of tourists, and especially American golf tourists, who come down to play the Sandbelt, and they play Royal and Kingston Heath and Metropolitan and Victoria and stuff, and very healthy debates and Metro about who's everyone's favorite is. And Metropolitan's always got some strong sort of hands up for some people's favorite course. So Metro certainly needs to be put in the mix because it's so good too.
Will Royal Melbourne always be part of one of the 4?
We'd love it to be. I mean, it's sort of the spiritual home of the Sandbelt, it's sort of the heartbeat of the whole thing. 36 holes. They've had the most tournament history. I mean, the job that they did, because the hosting jobs, I mean, we sort of set out the spirit of the tournament and all that, but they all sort of put their own little flair on it. What sort of part of the clubhouse do they want open to the public, and what sort of food would they put on, and what sort of feel they created at the tournament. And they did such a good job. They've had so many tournaments there. That's like a well-oiled machine, Royal Melbourne. And the atmosphere was fantastic. And I'd hope so, because that's a pretty special place, Royal, and it is the jewel in the crown that everybody sort of talks about. And it's the one that's had all the famous tournaments. And it really probably does have the best holes and sort of evokes the best golf, because it challenges you, and you get exposed if you don't have all the shots. You got to move it both ways. If you can't spin it, you're going to have a lot of trouble. If you don't understand sort of the nuances of the greens and where to leave it and where not to leave it, it's just a beautiful golf that gets played around there. So hopefully we always have it in there.
What's your biggest takeaway, Geoff? What's the thing that, that after sort of the last putt dropped and you were, on your way home, what were your reflections? What was the top line?
There was a few things. I mean, I think the thing that took me by surprise, because I thought I was ready for it, was how good it was to play those 4 courses 4 days in a row set up like that. I mean, we had and how sort of serendipitously beautiful this tournament is, in that when you have a tournament that's about highlighting the golf courses, you get these Sandbelts showing off, trying to prove that they're better looking than the other ones, right? So they all try to present their very best looking course. They're all trying to beat each other, and like the players and everyone's the benefit, because they just looked incredible. I mean, Kingston Heath and Royal Melbourne were set up like Sunday at the Australian Open, as tough as they could set them up. Really tough pins on every green, really interesting setups, fast, firm, sort of dry and sort of starting to brown off, but just, that US Open Sunday sort of look. And then we had Yarra Yarra, which they just wanted everybody to have fun. So they sort of chilled their pins out a little bit, but still had it looking as absolutely good as they could. And then PK on the last round was just miraculous conditioning. I mean, it was just unbelievable, just how, so the one point was just how good it was to play the 4 courses when they've tried to make it the best they can, and we get to do it 4 days in a row. I mean, that to me was amazing. I underestimated how good that would be, and then just how many things in this tournament. As I said, the courses are competing against each other. So the courses are always going to be at their best because they want to look good relative to all the other ones. We've got men and women in the field, which just makes everybody happy. You've got juniors in the field, which makes everybody happy. It keeps the parents happy. The clubs are happy because they're contributing to junior golf and gender equality. And it's highlighting Melbourne and the Sandbelt. It's just everybody was winning. Like from every angle you looked at it, it was just a really nice tournament. And it exceeded expectations, and it had so many more good aspects to it than you could have imagined that were going to happen beforehand. It's a little bit like the wishbone, you know. It's like, oh, well, we'll just have a few pros. We'll bring them to Goat Hill. We'll play Persimmons. How fun's that going to be? But the sort of the sum of all the parts is so much greater than you could have ever imagined when you get it all together and you do it. You know, it had one of those sort of feelings. Like there was this sort of everybody. I mean, I've had tens of, I guess, not hundreds, but I've had lots and lots of emails and messages from players who played the tournament of how great this was. Please give me an invite next year. And the courses were all glowing about it, and everybody won. You know, it was the members didn't really lose their course. They only lose their course for like a day. You know, I mean, it's not like a whole tournament where you might lose your course for 10 days. I mean, they get to highlight the thing, see great golf. The players come in and play, and then they leave and go somewhere else, and they get to enjoy the course in that condition the next day, you know. So it had good, every side, every direction you looked at it, it was successful and great.
Did any old timers pull you aside and be like, Geoff, can we get a few more Thursday, Friday, and Saturday pins? You know, like we're kind of getting our teeth kicked in day after day here.
First 2 days especially were tough. Yeah, I mean, we had amazing weather, but Melbourne's never dead still. I mean, we're not in sort of Indian Wells in Melbourne. I mean, it's always sort of blowing 20, you know, in the afternoon, like little sea breeze. So it was these perfect, sunny, not too hot Melbourne days, just enough wind a club wind, you know, to be annoying. And the Melbourne wind isn't constant, so it's up, down, and it varies direction a little bit. So the skill level required to have good scores, especially those first 2 days, it took everyone by surprise how tough it was. And I think, as I said, Yarra and PK set theirs more up for sort of fun. I mean, they were tough, but not quite as tough. And I guess that's really a sign of the genius and the level that Kingston, Heath and Royal Melbourne are, that they can just sort of dial a few switches, and all of a sudden you've got like just all the golf you can handle for 2 days. Yeah, it was tough. But good tough. Like, you know, when it's tough and you have tough sometimes, maybe first couple of rounds of a US Open, the players are all grumbling. I mean, this is just over the top. And then you have tough where all the players are glowing about this, what a great test this is. It was more one of those ones. There was nothing even remotely to complain about. It was just presented with an incredible challenge on every shot, you know, and it's just we're all competitive golfers and lived our whole life to come up with these shots when we need them, and you get presented 50 shots in a row, 2 days in a row, that this is all you've got, do it. You know, it's a great challenge. It was great fun.
I've always said there's a real difference between dumb tough and a fair test. I mean, it's a fine line. And we've seen various major championships cross the line on, you know, a fairly regular basis, where it's like, well, this is dumb. This is dumb tough. This is tough to just simply make a point of being tough versus having an actual escape route or a way of actually hitting some sort of answer to the riddle, whether it be a hole or a shot or a green or a pin placement. I've always felt like there has to be an answer. Someone's got to be able to crack the code. Not everybody, but some. I don't know. That's the way I feel.
I think architecture gives you every chance. I mean, the Masters does a pretty good job at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess everybody who watches the Masters will see the scores that people shoot and the birdies and eagles and stuff on Sunday. But if you actually like go down into it, that is 18 really difficult holes in a row, you know, and some of those pins are just beyond outrageous,
Yeah.
You know, that you played Augusta, but they're never even close to the unfair line because there's always a way to get there. You know, they always give you a way to get there. And if you are good enough and can hit the shot, and that's kind of what Royal and Kingston Heath especially were like, is, you know, it's here. You hit the great shot it's in your repertoire, but you've got to hit it now, you know, otherwise you're going to make bogey or double. And you just repeat. I think when there's a way to get to the hole, I think players are okay about it. But sometimes you get those crazy setups where there's just zero chance, you know, and I think that's deflating as a player. You know, you get the Redan at Shinnecock going a bit too fast, and it's just like, we can't play this hole, you know, and it's just a bit deflating because of how great the hole is, you know.
Yeah. Besides the toggling of different courses in terms of the four that you play, what do you think right off the top? Like, what changes will you make between now and next year?
I I don't know about any changes, but we'll certainly try to elevate the experience, because we organized this so quickly, it was tough to get people on for practice rounds, because it's a different sort of tournament. It's not all at one venue. It's at 4 courses. That would take some logistics to sort of, give everyone sort of not close everyone's course all week, but give them a chance to set it up, but give everyone a chance to come in 3 or 4 days early and play all these practice rounds. Because like, with the Dunhill and with Pebble and these multi-course tournaments, the practice rounds are some of the funnest days of those. People can come and have their games and stuff. So we do that. We'd just elevate the experience a little bit, just have a bit more sort of structure around it, have our car park passes and stuff each day. We were doing stuff on the fly, and we scratched together a really good tournament, but a few more people and a bit more sort of structure around it to just elevate the experience, and some player gifts and it's a bit more, this is logistic stuff,
Yeah.
Bit more coverage, a bit more sort of some more cameras and microphones out there, and a bit more of a creative way to cover a tournament. Because it's, again, 4 courses is going to be difficult. You're not just going to cable and completely set up 4 different golf courses. That's a massive undertaking. So you sort of get creative about how to show people what we were doing, and yeah, it's going to be great.
I think we can honestly be capable at this point next year, having learned what we learned from the Wishbone Brawl. I truly believe we could be capable of doing a featured pairing per course per day. So if you had 4 featured pairings or followed a featured pairing for 9 holes, you could almost double that, make it 8 groups for 9 holes per group times 4, and have those as, we could be bouncing back and forth. I really believe that's possible in 12 months.
Well, that'd be amazing, because some of these groups are really interesting. You've got sort of really experienced, like, long-time pros, deep in their 40s. We had Peter Fowler, who's been playing pro golf since the early 80s, playing European Tour most of his life, and then European Seniors, Champions Tour in the US. Like, he's been a quality player, and all the way down to a 13-year-old girl, and everything in between, so you get these amazing sort of conversations between teenage girls and old men pros, and older, like, seasoned girl pros, and young guys. And like, everyone's just got a different sort of story to tell. It's just different from 3 26-year-old tour players who have played 16 tournaments in a row. It's just not the same conversation as that. So I think incredibly interesting groups to watch, and just the way how differently everyone approached the golf, because the girls need to play it a little bit different from the guys, because they don't spin it as much. So their angles change and their strategies change, and they get a lot of roll. They're very, very straight, accurate golfers generally, but they don't get the spin. So they have an advantage in some aspects, but a disadvantage. So it's just incredible just to see the different ways to get around these golf courses. And I think that's partly why it's so interesting with those golf courses, because they offer so many alternate ways to play it, Yeah, interesting.
I know that you kind of saw yourself more as a host than a competitor, but I'm wondering, being that environment on those golf courses, did it light a little fire for you looking ahead to next year? Like, okay, I'm going to ramp it up, and I actually want to win this thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's so annoying to play like I did. I didn't play that badly. The score that Brady shot to 1, he shot 10 under for 4 rounds, and it was an adjusted 10 under because we played Royal at par 70, I think, which is a par 72 on the card. We played, the men played about 3 or 4 less par than we would normally, but even off the back tees. And the girls played sort of 1 or 2 more par than the guys. So it was a score relative to par, like the overall champion. So he went really low. I was never going to do that, but I was 5 over in the last 3 at Royal on the second round. I went bogey, triple, bogey. And outside of that, I actually played reasonably, just didn't make any putts. But yeah, I certainly would be grinding for it a little bit, I think. Hopefully, we've had no golf this year. We sat in tracksuit pants in our house for 4 months this winter. So I'd never had missed that much golf in my life. So hopefully I've got a few more under my belt by this time next year, and I'll be in a bit of form. We will have had the Australian Open, I think, maybe the week before, I think, next year. So we could have 2 in a row in the Sandbelt, like with the Australian Open and then the Sandbelt thing. It could be a pretty special 2 weeks,
Wow.
I remember that 17th green at the Royal Melbourne West. That's a hard hole. Let's go through your triple. I want to hear how you did it, just to make me feel better, because I might have made the same score there.
Yeah, I mean, 17 West is one of the best holes in the world, really.
It's so
I mean, it's
good.
just a classic long par four with bunkers on the inside, and you've got to be near the bunkers off the tee, and there's tea tree and junk and heather and heath and stuff to the side. And I sort of hooked my three. It was into the wind, so it was like sort of a 3-wood 5-iron sort of hole when I was playing, and I just hooked it into the trees and tried to chip out and didn't get out very far. And they got a flyer over the back into the junk and had to take it unplayable and hit it on and 2-putted. How'd you make 7? Yeah.
Thanks for
It was a
indulging
good
us,
2-putt
Geoff.
for 7. Got on the green for 5. Yeah, it was a shame. It's funny when I always missed the ball right when I missed it with long shots, especially into the wind. Like if we all have our tendencies right, and I actually missed it left. So that's mostly because I just, one of those things when you're just not playing, when you're playing tournaments every week, you're really attuned into where you're missing it. So you might be hitting it poorly, but at least you know where you're hitting it poorly too. When you haven't played as much and you go both ways, right and left, you've got issues.
I would imagine that doing what you've done here and for the reasons you've done them for, I would imagine were you showered with gratitude of people coming and I mean, were you overwhelmed by that? Did you expect that kind of reception as kind of the host and someone who put all this together?
I was overwhelmed is not quite right, but certainly amazed at just how positive. I mean, there just wasn't a person inside the gate or involved in the tournament who played, parents, caddies, volunteers. There just wasn't anyone who wasn't just glowingly, wow, how good is this? And you never have that, I mean, there's always some grumbles and you do some things wrong, and that's kind of normal, right? But just how universally positive it was incredible. It was, and I'm not used to getting letters or emails from players saying, wow, how good was that? That was really nice to get these sort of from young kids to pros. My phone was blowing up after the last round with just texts from all the players saying, wow, this is really special. And I don't think that normally happens, so we sort of hit the right highlights, I guess. I mean, there was clearly an appetite for this sort of thing, and we've filled a gap that no one even knew was there, but it was desired, So just the universal positivity from everybody has just been amazing. It's been really good.
Piggybacking off the Australian Open is really cool. I assume that'll help you attract certain players that maybe it was just impossible this year. Someone on Twitter, because obviously I was writing every day for the Fire Pit website and just little dispatches about the tournament, and someone responded to me, I love these golf courses. Do you think we'll ever see the best players in the world play them again? And obviously there's this influx of Saudi money and the tours now combating that with huge purses, and there's never been less incentive for a lot of the top players to get on an airplane and fly somewhere far away. I mean, what is your take on how you can get world-class players to the Australian Open and maybe to the Sandbelt Invitational going forward?
I mean, look, we're never going to be able to compete with that level of money, I don't think, in Australia. So it's, I think, sort of the strength or the real sort of attraction to the tournament is just, as I said, you're playing 4 of the best courses that we can find in the world. You're playing 4 top 100 courses in the world, set up as well as they can be set up 4 days in a row. That's really the attraction. We'll certainly, I think, as the tournament grows, clearly be able to budget up and have more and more sort of money to play with. But look, this is about making the golf courses the star. It's about providing an incredible sort of opportunity for the juniors, for the guys and girls together, like a collection of, it's really sort of, it's positive from every angle, from everyone who gets in the tour. It's great for the pros, anyone who wants to play the courses. It's great. The young kids get them experience with the good players on good courses. I just think we pick a good date, we run a really good tournament, and if people want to come, they want to come. I mean, if you think of, because it's got so many good sort of warm, fuzzy feelings about it, about everybody's helping everybody out. And we played, a little thing, the men last week played red tees and the girls played white tees. I mean, the men were back, like at the back, and the girls were a bit forward, but our tees were red and white. Just little things like that. It's just really good for the game to get all the stigmas away from all the colors. And there were so many little touches like that were just really cool, and it resonated with all the players. So I think if we put it near other big tournaments, like you said, in Australia, well, for an example, I think it would be the sort of tournament that would tickle the interest of Tiger and Charlie right now. I think Tiger would love Charlie to play competitive golf around the Sandbelt at some point because of how much he loves the Sandbelt, you know what I mean? So I think there's an appeal to this tournament that's not really just about budget. There's so much money going around in the world that it's almost philanthropic tournament starts for these players a little bit. You know, you're helping fix a lot of these gaps. You're raising a lot of money for junior golf. You're getting to play some of the best courses in the world and at their best, and it'll be a pretty casual week. I mean, there's a lot of players who'll make money everywhere else and just come to choose that and play that one for fun. I think it's got that sort of chance, you know. So I think we've got something really cool here. It's not trying to be the US Masters or US Open, or it's not trying to be that. It's trying to be something else. It's sort of something else, and I think it's got something else. It's got something for everybody. You know, it's got an appeal.
Pretty cool. I mean, it's and I was going to compare it to Wishbone when you were talking about all the warm fuzzies, and just from my observations of watching John and watch how people, you know, and Xander sort of glomming on to that event to say, okay, this is my opportunity. And now Fred Couples glomming, obviously you would have been there if you could have with travel and scheduling, but you know, Dean Wilson glomming onto this, it's a connective tissue thing to something greater than a paycheck. Or, you know, they raised $150,000 for kids, junior golf in the area, and then a caddy, you know, the Junior Caddy and Leadership Academy, which you know, to watch what the impact that's had on those kids and the impact this event has on that community, growing up to now 1,300 people roaming around, and there's not a single person that did anything wrong. It was so well mannered, well, you know, the tone, the volume, the energy was just perfect. So I think we're going to see more of these and not less of these, more of these opportunities for people to do something other than just, you know, get richer. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Jesus, I hope.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the Wishbone has got such a good feeling about it. And this is the same. It's slightly different, but it's in the same spirit, right? It's it's fantastic. And because I think it's actually, like you say, it's the more the money that goes into sort of the normal tournaments or the normal golf, the more money they make, the more freedom players are going to have to do what they want around the edges of that, you know? So I think, it is the time. It is the time for sort of creative events and, different sort of stuff that really actually I don't really like the phrase grow the game. I think it's just been completely used to death, but like to open up and show people how good the game actually is, you know, who maybe haven't thought about it that angle, who've only ever thought, I just thought it was rich guys getting richer on country clubs I can't go play, you know, to stuff like with the Wishbone and this, it's like, well, you can come play these places, you can have fun, and it's not all just about sort of pleated pants and like leather shoes, you know. I mean, there's more to golf than that, you know. So I think it's great. I
used Royal Melbourne as an example when I was talking to some people saying that, you know, Cypress Point should be like Yosemite. It should be a national trust that everyone has access to at least some of the time, you know, one day a week. Same, all these great old clubs. And of course, the people who hang out there strenuously disagree. But I always say, hey man, Royal Melbourne is a better golf course, and you can rock up and play it as a visitor. You know, there's a few little rules, and there might be some blocks of tee times that aren't available to you, but they open the doors. So does Muirfield in Scotland. So, you know, go on down the list. Like it's a sort of a uniquely American affliction that we don't want people to play our best golf courses. And so I cite Royal Melbourne all the time. Like, they make you feel welcome. You know, we showed up, and it was actually funny. There's a picture because we were barnstorming across Australia, it just so happened we had to pack up all our stuff in the Royal Melbourne parking lot. We took it all out of this van and we like took over the car park with travel bags and dirty socks, and no one said anything. Like, imagine doing that at Augusta National, right? And
Yeah.
so and everyone was so nice to us everywhere we went, and it was just like just it's only golf. I say this all the time. It's only golf, guys. It's not that big a deal. It's just a golf course. Like, what's the big deal? Like, who cares? Let people play it. Let them see it. Like, this is a unique little corner of the world, and I love that Royal Melbourne and Kingston Heath and we stayed at Victoria. Like, everyone was so welcoming everywhere we went, and that's really how it should be. I mean, these golf courses are such treasures, and for only 300 guys to ever get to play them, to me, is just sad and somewhat outrageous. So I love the Australian model. I mean, even New South Wales, which apparently is a pretty uptight place. Like, we showed up and had a great time there, and it's just like, that's what I wish golf could be. Where, I mean, I understand private clubs, people have played for the privilege and blah blah blah, but every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon there should be a couple hours set aside where people come out and play. And I love that Royal Melbourne's on that list where you can actually do that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they're educators of golfers, right? I mean, the more people that get to play Royal Melbourne, Muirfield, Old Course, any of these great courses, the golfer leaves a more educated golfer. He's more invested in the game. He understands a little bit more of the nuance. He develops an appetite for, this is that good. I want to go play. What about this course and this course? He starts looking down the list and spreading his wings a bit more. And I just think they're sort of the genesis of, like, some people's deep dive into golf, these great courses. So I think you're right. I think access to them should be, it's nice when there's access to, there's no should be's, but there's nice when there's access to these great sort of significant architectural golf courses. I think they're educators of the sport.
I just, congratulations seriously on knowing that what you tried to accomplish, you accomplished it. There's a lot of people around you. I know there's a lot of support that went into being able to pull this off, but I think this is the start of something really cool. And we can't wait to watch it evolve. Can't wait to be a part of the evolution from a broadcast standpoint, from sharing it with more people every year. And I mean, it's amazing. Those golf courses, this kind of opportunity, someone like yourself and Clayton getting involved. I mean, it's just really cool. It's a really cool thing. So congrats.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Clayton is sort of a cult figure. And everyone was laughing about him as, an uptight tournament director. Like, how did he do in that role? He must've had some laughs at his expense.
Oh, he was brilliant. He was sort of, it's a high level. Clayton's not a detail guy. It's a high level thing, You'll get bogged down in the details, but his concept, like, I think I'm pretty sure it was his idea to have the reds up the back and the whites up the front, which is just, no one thinks of that except for someone like him, but it was just so naturally cool the way we did it. And he just has a sort of a feel of golf, like this sort of innate sort of understanding of just the whole thing and what's good. And he kind of knows what people need to do before they know to do it, He's just got this level. He was great. He just wandered around. Beyond anything else, he loves golf more than anyone I've ever met. And he just wants to watch. He walked around and watched a lot of golf, and he'd make a few high-level decisions early before the tournament, but he just soaked it up and enjoyed it, was there every time, and was a presence on the range and a presence on the course and always around at scoring. And he helped sort of ask a few questions, like interesting questions, because he's sort of part journalist now too. He has been for a long time. So he was asking some really interesting questions of these kids and getting them to sort of use their brains a little bit with their answers and stuff. So he's an incredible asset to the game, and generally if you spend a bit of time with Clates, especially with an open mind, you will leave much more educated about golf and loving the game even more, just because of his enthusiasm and his knowledge. He was brilliant. Yeah.
Well, I got added to this WhatsApp thread that I probably wasn't even supposed to really be on. And there was some issue. Someone signed an incorrect scorecard, and they wrote in saying, I'm sorry, I understand. You need to disqualify me, as I made a mistake. And Clay's like, that's bollocks, we'll add a shot to the score. We're not disqualifying anybody. That's a dumb rule. Like, he's like, this tournament's all having sensible rules. And I was like, oh, that was so refreshing, like finally the right person was given the authority to make the right decision at the right time for the right outcome. And it was just, just the I didn't write about any of that because I felt I was kind of eavesdropping, but it was just such a cute little thing. Like you often, not just in golf but in life, the wrong person has the authority, and that's where things go sideways. But he just jumped in and was like, give me a break, keep playing, it's not a big deal. And I loved that.
Every now and then common sense prevails, very rarely, but when it does, it's a nice moment in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Geoff, I can't let you go before we talk a little bit about Medina. It was premature, the last conversation, but now it's done, correct? I mean, this is happening.
We are done. The members voted yes, a really strong, positive percentage of members. So it seems like I wouldn't say a mandate, but a go. Like if there's an approval from the members to the board and to us to say, yeah, you do what you do, we're excited. Yeah, so that's all happening. Pretty exciting. Yeah, really exciting.
And what's the timetable? Now what?
I think this year, because Chicago's obviously it's all about timing because of the freeze. I think there's some sort of initial sort of clearing a few trees and preparations going on up through this summer, and I think a little bit of a start at the end. And I think it's a full construction year in 23. So from as soon as it's warm enough to go, to just go, and then, yeah, so that's it, depending on the window and the weather and stuff. Yeah, so 23 looks like the main build year, where it'll look like a big dirty sand pit, and then a bit of grass on it by the end, and then sort of, I think 24 will be ready to go. I think President's Cup in 26, so it'll be pretty exciting. It's a cool property. Like it's just a cool club. Like talking about cool clubs, it's like 3 courses and sort of big grand old clubhouse. And Chicago's such a good golf town. Like it's a pretty cool place to work.
Yeah.
When I've walked a handful of big tournaments out there, and it didn't wow you with architectural features, but it's really nice land. I always thought, like, there's the way you're going up and down and around, and you're down by the water. Like it's got so many possibilities. So can you give us a little sense of the scale of the project and what you guys are hoping to do?
Yeah, the plan's out there now, I think, with the members. It's sort of just making Medina a better version of number 3, a better version of what it is really. Routing stays similar for the routing changes at the end a little bit. We're playing around with the water a little bit. One of the drawbacks or the common criticisms was that there's 3 par 3s that all feel the same.
I hate it.
Number 3, yeah.
That's the most obvious. Like it loses me when you step up and you're like, this is kind of the same shot. It's weird.
Yeah, so we're kind of, the second stays the second because you need to cross the water there to get to the third. But the other 2 are changing. 17's J, there's quite a bit of drama around the end, and using that sort of the big high sort of land on around the lake sort of a little bit more. So the last few holes will be pretty different for everyone else. It's pretty exciting, actually. It'll be really cool. We should create a bit of drama. It should be it's great, I think, for us when you have a match play situation like the President's Cup first, when everybody, it's great for Medina, it's great for everybody, because if you have a stroke play tournament, everyone gets so fixated on the score that we shoot around there. So if the players go low, everyone's like, oh, what a weird job. And if the players can't play it, like, what a weird job. It's like everyone gets tainted, that their judgment gets measured by the score. Whereas match play, it's just like, wow, it's just a celebration of how good the place is. I think it's it'll be fun. It's a great venue anyway. That Ryder Cup was one of the, not for the US guys, but what a Sunday that one was, and the atmosphere that was there. And it's a pretty special place. I remember playing 2006. I played first 2 rounds with Tiger and Phil in the PGA, which, Alan, you would remember that one. Probably. Oh, yeah. There was at least 300 or 400 people inside the ropes for most of our first round, because I guess they
total anarchy. Yeah,
it was just madness. I guess they hadn't played together in a major for a long time, I guess, especially that Thursday, Friday thing. And I came, it was just 15 deep all day and just absolutely, and as I said, 400 people inside the ropes. And I come into lunch, and there was a couple of guys, the boys in the lunch, and they're like, this is weird. This is a major. There's no one here. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like this. I've never seen this many people. but every single person at the course was on our group. That was it, because it was Tiger and Phil. I mean, I was clearly, they didn't even know I was in the group, but it was just, I had the front row seat to this unbelievable group. And yeah, Chicago, it's a great town for crowds and like fans and like just passionate. They're like New Yorkers, but we're slightly less vocal, you know, they just love the sport, you know. It was great. So it's a really exciting place to work for sure.
Vocal is a good choice of words. You could have gone a different way there, but but you mentioned Tiger. I mean, that's one of the places where he's really made his mark, right? Like, I mean, to win 2 majors at one venue, it's a very short list. You can say that. So do you think he'll get in your ear, or would you seek him out just as a he's obviously a learned observer, and not as a courtesy, you don't owe him that, but would you be curious to get his thoughts on some of the things you're thinking of doing there?
For sure. I mean, I can't say that his thoughts would change anything that we would be doing, but it would be great to have a chat to him about it, because he's got a really deep understanding of what makes good golf courses great. And I think if he invests in architecture like he has in his golf game, he'll be really good, I think. But it's all a matter. I mean, he's got so many different things in his life, you know what I mean? Like, if he takes a deep dive, I think he'd be great to talk to about there, actually, because anyone who's won there twice, he's sort of gotten an affinity for the place. He sort of he had the key that unlocked the old Medina, you know. So I like talking to all these players about golf course, especially the ones who are interested in them. I think there's no such thing as knowing all the answers. It's just always shading and filling in gaps in your knowledge, right? And the more good players and the more people you talk to who are passionate about golf courses, I think you just get something out of it every time. He'd be great.
It was cool to see this happen, because knowing what I know about you guys and your evolution as an architectural team, you know, it was like, you're doing great work. You have a great sense. You have a great team. You needed this kind of job to have the stage in which, you know, it's now going to get the eyeballs. You know, in a way, it's probably good timing, I would think, in that you guys have been able to do what you've done, and now you get this great stage of golf to do what you're capable of doing, and you're going to pull back the curtain one day and be like, do you feel like this is kind of the timing is perfect for you to do what you're going to be doing here, knowing what you know now and where you're at in your life and career, and be like, you could, to have Medina number 3 in Chicago with the president?
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, it's almost, you can't get much of a bigger job than that, because most places above that, like if you get anything, even any higher profile, they're not doing anything to their course, right? Medina's like that sweet spot of it. They've got a history of changing that place. They've changed it a lot. It's sort of in the DNA of that place, and they'd redone their other 2. Yeah, it ticks every box. Shady Oaks was a massive step up for us in profile because of the Hogan connection. And this is like sort of, I wouldn't say the natural next step, but this is certainly in terms of eyeballs and historic sort of significance, this is the biggest job we've had by a mile. So
yeah, because Shady, at the end of the day, not a lot of people are going to see it. You know, it's just going to be a very limited number of eyeballs. But Medina's going to, you know, like now people are going to see this.
Yeah, I mean, the President's Cup's a pretty visible event, isn't it? And you got 24 of the best players in the world. The 2 are trying to max coverage for the golf course. Yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah, so we need to do a good job.
No pressure.
What about Clayton? Obviously, he was part of the team. Now he's with DeVries, and you guys have obviously stayed close. Is this as good of a relationship as it looks like? It's just kind of like, you know, you had a 4-person team essentially, and then DeVries. Like, where do you guys all stand on all this?
Oh, we're great mates. I mean, it's all good. Yeah, it was just mostly just sort of what Clates are sort of up to now. Michael and Ashley, for us, for OCM, are very sort of, they're at a younger age. They can be a bit more ambitious, a bit more travel, you know, just sort of different style jobs. And Clates is really interested in, you know, and whereas Clates has ended up with, DeVries, and it's sort of, they've got little points all around the world. They've got a UK connection, American connection, Australia. And I just think it just matches. It just makes more sense this way, you know, just for where everyone's at and their timing and stuff. So I still see Clates all the time. He's still a fascinating guy to talk to about golf. Yeah, it's worked out really well. And as it didn't, I wouldn't say take the reins off, but it's sort of freed up Michael and Ashley to sort of, for us to look at jobs all around the world a little bit more and do a bit more of that stuff. So yeah, it's one of those just natural evolutions of things, you know.
Everyone wins.
Everybody wins.
I mean, maybe this is a better offline conversation, but a Geoff Ogilvy, Michael Clayton podcast would be next level. So do you think there's any chance we could rope him in for regular chit chat?
Probably. He does a few regulars, but we could certainly we would have an interesting chat there. I think that would be fun, actually, a few times. Yeah, he's great. He just has a way of viewing situations from an angle that's just no one you've never really thought of, and he explains things in such an interesting way. So yeah, it'd be great. We'll get him in here a few times.
We don't want to overdo it. Just like maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday of every week. You guys. Just keep it light. But that would be a must listen for anyone who cares about golf. So I think
that would be fun. That would be fun.
Yeah.
You guys talked about a little bit in that previous conversation, but now part of the fire pit and now getting through the Sandbelt and the invitation. I mean, what is your passion behind what ultimately will be this platform? What do you see what is the vision for you in terms of a podcast and what you want to do, a cadence or a kind of a subject matter that feels like something you really want to get into on a regular basis?
I mean, look, I like all aspects of golf, really. I mean, I don't know if I just like talking about the game with people who like talking about the game, you know, or who like the game, you know, which is a lot of people. Obviously, it's an interesting game. I mean, I love golf courses, obviously, and architecture in the old places, and I'd love to take deep dives into that, you know, with architecturally minded people. I'd love, surprisingly enough, maybe for you guys, but I really love sort of improving people's golf, or like that, just the whole discussion of technique and how do you find that? I mean, not really from a P3, P4 sort of D plane sort of percentages and stuff way, but more about we've all got that golf swing in us. It's more about how do we get it out of it? How do we get out of our own way sort of stuff and swing it a bit better? And why do we learn better when we're 12 than we do when we're 30? You know, all those, I mean, I'm talking about the swing and then travel and current tour golf. I mean, I'm a tour golfer more than anything else. So, you know, I think I could be convinced to talk about any aspect of the game, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love the tour side, the golf course side, the golf swing side.
Other than that, not much to talk about.
Not much to talk about, you know. So I think it's more just let it evolve, you know. Like it's all interesting to me. So we'll see. I don't know.
I think we're also, with some of the people that we have on Team Fire Pit, and then the people that you have access to, I think it's going to be fun to potentially participate in almost round tables from time to time, once a quarter or, you know, twice a year or whatever. That'll evolve too. But getting, you know, after Phil wins the PGA, some you know, significant moment that is bigger than just sort of the game itself. We've been, you know, popping on and saying, let's all just jump on and have a conversation about what this means and what we just saw, what we witnessed and why it matters. The occasional opportunity to do that from time to time with a cool select group of people, I think is something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Conversations with, like a table full of interesting perspectives with people like you two and other writers who get it. And then people like Clates and, you know,
could be fun.
I don't know. You get some of the coaches are really perceptive, and, you know, I mean, you can just get some great people, you know, all different generations, all talking about big moments. Yeah. that's the thing. That's the thing the sport gives us. It just gives you just almost infinite sort of rabbit holes to go down and chase. You know, like it's just so much depth to the game. You know.
Yeah, I love it. That's like a good exclamation point on the end of this conversation.
Yeah, to be continued. I mean, you know, again, thank you, Geoff. And there's been I didn't get to talk to you last time. You know, I was out in Kauai, but just really enjoyed watching. You know, I just enjoyed this process of having these conversations with you leading up to where we are now. And then I feel like we're at the starting line of, you know, where we are with technology and distribution and where we are in our careers and the experiences we've had in our lives, both inside and outside of ropes in general. I think this could be a really amazing year leading back into what will be the Sandbelt Invitational in 2022. And I think at that point, you know, if we've kept focus and kept our head down and where we can be this time next year, having an actual wrap-up podcast in Melbourne about what we just talked, I think is a pretty cool thing to be chasing. Talk about a rabbit hole. Let's go down that one.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think there's good things. I think I'm coming over 2 or 3 times next year. April for a big. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that we can do. We can do some stuff around the Masters. We can do some stuff around golf courses.
Yeah.
Stuff back here, like also as the world gets a little bit more normal. I mean, this Omicron, it's like sort of the final sort of fight. It feels like from the virus. It's like just sort of digging its heels in a bit in it. But it'll go away at some point, and it'll open up. People will forget about it, and we'll be sneezing on each other in airports in no time. You know.
As long as it's the Melbourne airport, sign us up. But yeah,
yes,
no, we're
in.
It's already on the company calendar. I mean, I enjoyed covering it from afar and getting the little audio files from Clates and from Kathy Scherer and all that was fun. But I really, it would take something more serious than we're facing now to get me out of going to Australia next year. And I mean, we really are serious about wanting to live stream the whole thing and let people watch this tournament play out. I mean, I think there's a huge demand out there. So the possibility.
I think so. I mean, it's just you get every angle, especially the golf porn, guys who just want to see those courses. And it's there was so many little stories there too. I mean, you'd need a little runners to go and get all the stories because there's so many, you know, because there's such a cross section of players there, you know, and there's the golf course angle, there's the golf tournament angle, there's the mentor angle, there's just so many different sort of things to go nibble on, you know, at the tournament. It'd be a journalist's dream, I would have thought, because it's not just 156 spoiled guys and like getting dropped off from Santa Monica Airport, you know. It's like actually just a whole cross section of the game. It's just grouse, and the members, they're all puffing their chest out about how good their course is, and like, oh, it's just cool. Yeah,
I think you know, making some pre-produced stuff, features on each course, and then highlighting a few key players pre-produced that we aired during the live broadcast. That's all going to happen. I mean, that's all, and then chase kind of the news as it's unfolding over the course of the couple of days. I mean, that just feels like no brainer. I mean, I think Team Fire Pit in Melbourne, you know, Fire Pit Australia is going to be. we're gonna have to really get down there and really hunker down and take full advantage of what's happening, because it's all there for us.
And there's just, and it's not only the Sandbelt. I mean, there's all sorts of content in Australia, you know what I mean, that could be put in the
we want to get back
to, or whatever you call it.
Yeah. We, you know, we fell in love with Cape Wickham, and now it's for sale, and they've been talking to us about coming over and doing some content there to help spread the word. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's one of our favorite courses in the world. Go back to Tassie and hang out there, and go back to Barnbougle, and like you go on down the list. It's I think I have to block out a month for this whole little trip. And
I mean, Tasmania, just as a golf / sort of destination, would be pretty good. You know, Tassie's nuts. Tassie's got so much cool stuff. It's got the nature and the cheese and the wine and the golf and the, you know, cool stuff.
Yeah. No, it's happening.
Well,
it's like a little it's like a mini New Zealand, Tasmania, kind of. Yeah.
And in a way, the golf, I feel like I've checked the box of New Zealand. I've played them and I'm good, but I've got to get back to Tasmania. Like I'm not, I played it all. And the one, if I'm gonna depart from Melbourne for any reason, it would be to Tasmania. That would be the only I'm gonna go
King
back,
Island too, though.
hunker down in Melbourne. But if I need to, yeah, I'm going back to Tasmania.
Yeah.
Tassie's
All
all
right,
good.
so-
Well, Clates is doing, there's a new one there. There's 2 new ones getting built right now in Hobart. So
Is that
one
7
of
Mile
them-
Beach?
7 Mile Beach is going to be miraculous.
The photos look amazing.
Yeah, the land is really cool. It's like Pine Valley next to water, sort of sand dunes and pine trees. And it's crazy. Yeah.
And will that be done a year from now?
It's all about when DeVries can get here, I think. They've done a lot of initial clearing and got the corridors and all that stuff, but I don't know where they're at. But it'll build pretty quick because it's all sand and it's pretty easy to do. So a year or 2, maybe. It'll certainly have something to look at this time next year, I would have thought. Yeah.
It's happening. Add it to the list.
Yeah.
But thank you, and Merry Christmas, and looking forward to a long and fruitful potential in terms of what we can accomplish. It's pretty much mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good stuff. All right, Geoff.
Good things coming.
Yeah.
All right, boys.
Yeah,
for your
thank
time.
you, Jeff. Appreciate you.
All
See ya.
See ya.
Talk
Okay,
soon.
bye.
Happy New Year.
All right. See ya. You too.